It's starting to get cooler outside, which can only mean one thing. It's Feral Girl Fall. What is Feral Girl Fall? Feral Girl Fall is like Hot Girl Summer, but feral, but unhinged. So think unhinged woman, messy, dramatic, problematic a little bit, mentally ill. You let loose and you be very unapologetic about it, okay? You show off the fact that you're not all there, okay? I just feel like the fall is the best time of the year to read unhinged woman books, okay? Because I feel like, you know, it's a little bit, it's the season of the witch, it's the season of the Scorpio, it's just dark, mysterious, just all of the spooky, creepy vibes, and I feel like that's the time of the year that people really let loose and show that they're a little deranged. So in this video, I have over 30 book recommendations for you. I have a mixture of books everywhere from thriller to horror to lit fic, a couple extreme horror. I have just a wide mixture of some books, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm not gonna give you like a full in-depth description of every single book because we would be here for 3 hours, but I'm gonna try my best. Starting off with some thrillers, I could argue that any Gillian Flynn book is an unhinged feral girl fall sort of book. Starting with Gone Girl, if you don't know the twist in this one, like you're living under a rock, but this is about a woman who goes missing and everyone's blaming the husband. All signs point to the husband. So you're trying to uncover this mystery. I think of unhinged women, this is the book and the movie that I think of. So I highly recommend checking this one out if you don't know anything about it. I don't want to say anything else because if you don't know anything about it, I want you to know absolutely nothing. And then I have Sharp Objects here, which is about a female reporter who goes back to her hometown after being in a psychiatric hospital, and she has to uncover the mystery of 2 murdered preteen girls. Everyone in the town is a suspect. Every single woman in this book is completely unhinged, and I love Gillian Flynn's writing. I recommend any of her books, like her other ones as well. Also, Dark Places and The Grown Up would be really great as well. I'm just recommending these 2 because these are my favorite ones, but I also enjoyed these. Next is The Girl in 60 by A.R. Torre. This is about a cam girl who is a serial killer, and she basically locks herself inside of her apartment and doesn't come out ever because she's scared she's going to murder people if she comes out of her apartment. So that's what this book is about. I love this main character. I loved just following her day-to-day anxieties and the things she got going on, and I really enjoyed this book a lot. I did not like, it's a series, I didn't like the rest of the series. Honestly, you could probably just read the first book and just be done, because that's basically what I did, because the second one I wasn't a big fan of, and then the third one I also wasn't a big fan of. So I would highly recommend the first one though, and if you want to stop there, please do. But she is completely unhinged. I loved everything about this. It was such a fast-paced, enjoyable thriller, and it was different too. Next is My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This one is about a husband and wife. They get married, they have kids, they live in the suburbs, and then they just get bored. And in order to kind of save their marriage, they start murdering people together. They are a husband and wife serial killer, and these things just keep happening, and there's this whole dilemma that goes on. I don't want to say much else, but I really enjoyed this book. It's another fast-paced, easy thriller. This wife was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Then I have Blood Sugar by Sasha Rothschild. This one is about this therapist who has murdered 3 people, technically, and she is being questioned for murdering her husband, and she's trying to tell them like, no, I didn't murder my husband, but she does have some secrets of what happened with the other 3 people that she actually murdered, and that's her secret that she's gotten away with. And we learn This is a very slow-paced, character-driven thriller, so I actually remember more about this one, and I like this one more so than, like, for example, My Lovely Wife and the Girl in 6E. Learning about her reasoning for why she killed each man and what exactly happened, and I absolutely just ended up loving this main character and rooting for her. I was literally like, good for her. And I was like, oh, this woman's a murderer. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but like, good for her, really. Then my last thriller rec is They Never Learn by Lainey Fargo. This is about a woman professor who murders men on the college campus who do awful things like, you know, rapists, etc. And she murders them and gets away with it. And we're also following someone who's staying on the college campus. And I really enjoyed this one. This was another one that I literally kept saying good for her throughout the book, and she's a murderer. So yeah, I think this is just the epitome of like fall. It's kind of like that dark academia, but also unhinged feral woman. Good for her. Then I have some horror books. So the first one, I actually just finished reading. It's a new book that comes out on September 3rd. It's called The Night Guest. And this one is translated. It's like from Iceland? Am I confusing that with someone else? No, I think so. But anyways, this is about a woman who is exhausted all the time. She's chronic fatigue. She's going to doctors. They don't know what's wrong with her. And it's very, very relatable in a sense where if you're chronically ill or have chronic fatigue, this is literally how you feel, trying to convince doctors that there's something wrong with you. And it's just this whole, you know, exploration of medical gaslighting. And she notices that her steps are being counted in the middle of the night, and it's always like some crazy number. So she thinks that she is sleepwalking, and more weird things keep happening. It's a little bit disorienting. Super quick read. This one definitely fits into this category. Next is Misery by Stephen King. We are following Annie Wilkes. I'm sure most of you know who that is. And there's this writer who gets into a car accident, you know, in the middle of a blizzard, and Annie basically rescues him and brings him back to her place to nurse him back to health, and she is holding him captive because she's like his biggest fan. And it is, woo! It just really shows how some people are so good at being charming and charismatic, but they're actually psychos. Next one is Mary by Nat Cassidy. I wish I had a physical copy of this one, but this is about a woman who, she's a middle-aged woman. She's starting to get, you know, hot flashes, etc. She thinks that she's going through menopause, but then she starts hearing voices in her head and telling her to do crazy, wild things. And here she believes it might be the voice of a serial killer. It's great. This one is wild. I think it was doing a little bit too much here and there with the themes, but overall, I think this explored womanhood so well. I don't know. I absolutely love Nat Cassidy's writing. I think he is an incredible horror author, but the more that I think about this book, the more I really loved it. Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. This is about a woman who meets another woman on this website. This woman is selling an apple corer, and they strike up a conversation. It's a lot of like chat conversations back and forth. And here, things have gotten worse. And they keep getting worse because it just keeps getting more and more and more wild. And just really proves how sometimes people are willing to go great lengths to get other people to like them and in order to feel accepted. And this is completely disgusting and feral. Judy Martin's Final Curtain Call by A.W. Mason. This is about a woman who was like a famous Broadway star, and she is now older and her fame is kind of up, and she's reminiscing on all of the things that happened in her life with men leading up to the point that she is now, where she's struggling to find work and, you know, struggling to feel worthy. And it kind of turns into a little bit of a slasher. It's her getting revenge on all the men who have wronged her throughout her life and her career. I really love this one. I love Judy fucking Martin. She is just a star. Next, I have 4 that are more extreme horror book recs. So these are very heavy with trigger warnings, gore, violence, etc. So be aware of that. The first one is Full Brutal by Christopher Triana. Christopher Triana writes really amazing female characters, specifically unhinged feral female characters. The first one is Full Brutal. I absolutely love Kim White. She's a teenager that sleeps with her teacher and then is determined to ruin his life and his family's life, and she goes on this whole mission of life ruining, and we're just following her throughout this book as things get progressively more and more sinister. I absolutely love this character. She was hilarious. There's some like black comedy in there, some satire. I loved the downward spiral of Kim White. This was so masterfully done. The other book that I loved by him was Toxic Love. This is about a man who is part of a cleanup crew. So he cleans up dead bodies after like murder scenes and stuff. And next thing you know, there is this woman on the job who he's super attracted to. He's like, why are you working here cleaning up blood and guts when you look like a supermodel? And here she has a thing. She has a kink for the gore scenes. And this is kind of like a smut book. It's like very smutty, but the second half takes this like wild turn. It's like extreme horror, thriller, smut. I don't know, but I really enjoyed this one. I just like loved this female character so much. Then I have Fluids by May Lates. This is another one that is kind of similar to Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, because it takes place in chat rooms. So we have a woman who's in a chat room, you know, kind of looking for a companion, a partner, and she comes across a trans woman and they start talking, you know, and really get to know each other about how they don't feel like they belong, etc. You know, just talking about their mental health, and then they agree to meet up. And when they agree to meet up, things just get worse from there. We really dive into this main character's head and her various mental disorders, and you know, we're just following the two of them as chaos ensues. And this book gets very crazy. It gets to a point where you have no idea what the hell is even going on anymore, and it was just a completely wild ride. And then the next one is Hysteria by Ali C.A. I'm so bad with last names. So this one is like 2 little short novellas in one book. So the first one is about a woman who can see halos above people's heads who are child predators, and she's trying to get revenge. So it's like this rare side effect from cold medicine, I believe. And then the second one is about a woman who is obsessed with DIY plastic surgery after she finds a electric knife at a thrift store. So yeah, it's just following you know, her commentary about body dysmorphia and her various mental conditions. So that is this one here. This one actually almost made me throw up. This was so visceral and disgusting. Oh my god. Then there's one book that is more so like transgressive fiction, I would classify it as, and that is #Thigh Gap by Chandler Morrison. This is about this woman, Helen, who is very mentally ill. She's dealing with a horrible eating disorder, and this entire book is about eating disorders, and we're following her just navigating day-to-day life basically with this eating disorder. And she's living, you know, as like a model in LA, and you just see all these very superficial, awful characters throughout the book. It's also satire, so there's a lot of like dark comedy and satirical things that happen in this book, but we really just see her downward spiral and the way that she thinks, and it really dives into body dysmorphia and eating disorders. And I think that this handled the topic so well. It was so realistic. I see what it was trying to do, and I really recommend this one if you're trying to read books, you know, with very accurate mental health rep. Check this one out. Okay, then before we move into all my literary fiction, I have one nonfiction memoir, and it's Julia Fox's Down the Drain. So this is Julia Fox's book that she wrote about her life and all of the crazy situations that she's been in, you know, following her mental illness and her drug usage and how she was a dominatrix and all of these things that she has been through in her life. The epitome of unhinged feral woman in real life. Like, I love her. I absolutely want to be her, and she's just, you know, she's so Julia. Then moving into literary fiction, the first one I have is Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. We're following this girl who is 11, I believe, and she feels like she's an alien because she feels like she can't relate to anyone else on Earth other than her cousin. And now in present day, she's older, she's married, she hasn't seen her cousin in a long time, so they're all kind of they're gonna go back to her hometown and meet back up with him. This really explores abuse and childhood trauma, and the ending is the most insane, wild, batshit, unhinged thing I've ever read in my entire life. Next, let's talk about Oteza Moshfegh. I have My Year of Rest and Relaxation and Eileen. This one is extremely fucked up. Like, fucked up in a way where this character is so unlikable that, like, I understand the 1-star rage reviews, because she is just a horrific, nasty, disgusting, offensive, horrible person that I want to hurt. And at the same time, I just love reading from unlikable, horrible characters like this, because I don't know. I don't know what it is. I typically like unlikable characters more so than likable ones. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but this is about a woman who tries to sleep for an entire year because of her depression. So she tries to get this sketchy psychiatrist to prescribe her enough sleeping pills where she basically will just sleep for a year straight. She's just like me for real. And then Eileen is about another unlikable character who's taking care of her alcoholic father, and like she's got a lot of shit going on, and she works at this prison. And one day this new woman starts at the prison that she strikes up a little obsession with, and they become friends, and things get a little bit wild from there. There's like a crime aspect at the end of this book with a big twist. And yeah, I don't think it's like super twisty, mind-blowing sort of a twist like people make it seem, but I still really liked learning about this main character and all of her unhinged, deranged thoughts. A book that is similar to the last one is Dead Animals by Phoebe Stooks. So this one is about a woman who is assaulted by a man, and she wakes up and doesn't really quite remember what happens, but you know, we follow her day-to-day life, and she slowly starts remembering what happened to her, and next thing you know, she meets this woman who was also a victim of the same man, and they strike up a friendship, and she becomes obsessed with the woman, and it's just her obsession and desperation, and we're just following her kind of mental downward spiral. It does have, you know, some commentary about abuse, I don't think the ending was all that mind-blowing. It kind of was like at the end, but I would still recommend this for like getting inside of an unhinged woman's mind. I have Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan. I love this book more than life itself. This one is about a woman who is in a really terrible relationship, and we're following her thoughts about her romantic obsession and you know, how she kind of like idolizes this really shitty relationship and situation because she's afraid to be alone. And we just follow, you know, all of her reasonings and her thoughts for having this mindset. I just thought that there were so many beautiful quotes in here, and this is very short. Like, chapters are like 2 pages long. So I flew through this one, and I actually want to reread it because I loved it so much. Next is one of the mascots of my Patreon. I have a Patreon, and it's always linked down below, and we are obsessed with this author. We keep buddy reading all of her books in Discord. The first one is Exalted by Anna Dorn. So this woman is an astrologer, and she's running this sketchy website for money, and basically she becomes obsessed with a man based on his birth chart that is exalted. So she starts stalking him a little bit and it gets wild from there. And then we're also following the POV of another woman that has borderline personality disorder, and I love this book more than life itself. It's one of the funniest books I've ever read in my entire life. And then the next one is a very popular one. It's Perfume and Pain, again by Anna Dorn. So this is about a woman that is a writer, and she kind of gets canceled at a Barnes & Noble, and she's in this Sapphic Scribes writing group where it's just, you know, like a group of lesbian writers, and she becomes obsessed with this other woman named Ivy and starts kind of stalking her a little bit. And then we kind of get into like her new neighbor who's living off of Urban Outfitters settlement money. We get into like her gay best friends, and it's just a lot of drama. But if you're into like unhinged woman drama, she's spiraling, she's taking a bunch of pills and alcohol all the time. Highly recommend this one for the drama, and also very satirical and funny as well. So I'm killing myself. I love Anna Dorn more than life itself. Then again, another woman that I'm absolutely obsessed with is Melissa Broder. I could honestly recommend any Melissa Broder book to you for this video. She is the epitome of feral girl fall. She is the epitome of life. God is a woman, and it's Melissa Broder. Milk Fed is about a woman who's obsessed with another woman. She's suffering from an eating disorder and has a lot of food rituals. Wow, I can't speak English today. But yeah, she meets this other woman at a yogurt shop and starts spiraling from there. It's a lot of commentary about eating disorders and also religion as well. This character is, the character that she meets is Orthodox Jewish, so it has a lot of stuff about Orthodox Jewish religion. So I appreciated this one. And then we have So Sad Today, which is nonfiction. This is a collection of Melissa's essays that made me say, wow, she's just like me for real, because these were unhinged, unapologetic, wild, wacky, weird. Some of them were so off the wall TMI that I was like, holy shit, girl. And then the other ones literally made me hysterically cry because she was talking about like her anxiety and depression and other mental problems, and I felt so seen reading this. It's not going to be for everyone, but love this. The Pisces is probably my favorite one. I know a lot of people don't like this one because there is some animal cruelty in it, and I understand if you can't handle this one, but this is about a woman who is going to stay at her sister's place after a breakup, and she's dog sitting, and basically is obsessed with a merman. And we're following her downward spiral and romantic obsession and all of her mental disorders. I felt very seen reading this book also. Just a lot of great quotes about mental health and I'm telling you, Melissa, she's just like me for real. And then the last one is Death Valley, and this one is about grief, following this woman whose husband has a progressive illness and her father's in the ICU, and she's dealing with a lot of grief. And she's a writer, so she goes to the desert to stay there and write for a little bit, and comes across the big, huge, magical, vaginal looking cactus. That's what this book is. There's some like magical realism element to it, but it's, again, a lot of commentary on mental health and grief, and I also found this one super relatable. So yeah, Melissa Broder just gets it. She gets me. She's an unhinged girly. She's the epitome of feral girl fall. And Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. This is just a very heavy, character-driven book where we're following this woman who takes exotic photographs of unconventionally attractive men, and she gets told that her photos are going to be in an art exhibit. So it's like her going through her photos and reminiscing on these men and telling us stories about them. So yeah, it's just very heavy on this main character and not a lot of plot going on, but she is completely unhinged, just again, very satirical. There's a lot of craziness going on where she's unlikable, but then she says something hilarious, and I'm like, wait, I kind of want to travel the world with her. But there is, I know a lot of people compare this to American Psycho, and like a little bit, but not really. I think the ending, just that what the hell did I just read? Did that really just happen? Sort of thing. I can see being compared to American Psycho, but just know that the rest of this book is a very different vibe until you get to the end. But I just absolutely loved this one, and I loved getting to know some of the men, like Eddie from Tesco specifically. If you know, you know. I loved him in this book, and he made me cry. So yeah, I just think that this is a very, very well done, well written book, and is just the epitome of unhinged, unlikable main character, but also it makes me like her at the same time. Last but not least, another one you've probably seen 100 times on my channel, Animal by Lisa Taddeo. This is about a woman who is in a relationship with this man who's having an affair, and he sees her out at dinner with another man and he kills himself in front of them. And ever since then, she's trying to get back in touch with her estranged half-sister in California. So she moves out there to meet back up with her because that's like the only person she has in her life now. And we just go from there. We get to know her neighbors, we get to know her past and the things that have made her who she is. This was extremely well written. The audiobook is read by Emma Roberts, and she did a fantastic job. This does get more and more unhinged as you read. It is very slow and character driven, but once you get there, it is wild. So many amazing quotes. Just, this is one that has really stuck with me since reading it, and I highly, highly, highly recommend. This is one that like everyone should read. And that is it. Those are the 30-some books that I recommend for Feral Girl Fall. If you read any of these, let me know. If you've read any of them and liked them, leave it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.